to please occupy their positions on the dais. Dr. Madhavi Lokhande, Dr. R Keshava, Shri Hemanth Sahal, and moderator Dr. Gowrisha. At the outset, I welcome you all to the panel discussion on role of education in achieving Vision of Viksit Bharat at 2047. First and foremost, I would like to welcome Dr. Madhavi Lokhande, Director, Wellington Institute of Management, Development and Research, Bengaluru. She is a fellow of the Cost Accountants of India and the Institute of Management Accountants, US. She also holds the position of National Vice President, Homepreneurs Council, Women's India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and President, Institute of Management Accountants, Bangalore Chapter. Her accolades include prestigious fellowship from Executive Leadership Academy from UC Berkeley. She was a mentor for ISB Goldman Sachs 10KP program. Dr. Madhavi founded Padhai, a charitable trust that promotes the cause for inclusive education. She has received many awards, to name a few. Recent one, the Indian CSR Leadership Award, Impactful Social Leader Award in the 15th India CSR Summit and Awards on 23rd January 2025. We are indeed privileged to have her here as a distinguished panel member. Welcome you, ma'am. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. R Keshava, Professor and Chairperson of Department of Economics at Bangalore University. He has over 2 decades of academic experience. He has served as Director of Central Placement Cell and Coordinator for NEP 2020 UG Honors Courses, specializing in public economics, macroeconomics, FDI, development economics. He has authored many books, published extensively and presented globally. He has contributed to policy making as Assistant Director of Statistics in Karnataka Government and Special Officers Evaluation at Bangalore University. His research spans around economic policies, MSMEs, agriculture, and fiscal policies. He is a very noted speaker, and he regularly writes for leading newspapers. Indeed, we are privileged to have you amongst us, sir. Welcome you. Next, I welcome Shri Hemanth Sahal for the panel discussion. He is the founder and CEO of Digii, formerly called CallPol, a Bangalore-based enterprise software company recognized among top 100 edtechs in South Asia and consistently being listed in top 20 chart in education category of iOS App Store. He is a serial entrepreneur. Mr. Hemanth has launched Digii as a second startup after founding his first startup venture during his second year of college in 2009. This venture was highlighted as one of the top 50 student startups globally at New York Exchange and led to his introduction into Ashoka's Youth Venture program. Mr. Hemanth's career has consistently bridged education and technology with previous roles at World Bank and Manipal Global. He also served as founding director of Adainta School for Leadership and Innovation. He has received several accolades, including the Young Thought Leader Award from CRISIL, a medal from the Institution of Engineers, the Distinguished Alumni Award from Vellore Institute of Technology, and the EdTech Transformation Award from Rotary Club. Indeed, we are privileged to have you amongst ourselves for the panel discussion today, sir. Welcome you. We have the moderator for today's panel discussion, Dr. Gowrisha. He is a professor and director of CESS. He has experience in quality management and accreditation of higher education institution. His areas of interest include quality in education and management of NGOs. He worked as chief consultant in technical secretariat of committee to draft NEP, headed by renowned space scientist Dr. Kasturi Rangan, which was constituted by MHRD. He has also served as honorary secretary and treasurer of CLAMS, a Bengaluru-based NGO. He has delivered more than 100 lectures on NEP 2020 at various national and international webinars and seminars. He is a governor nominee member of Academic Council of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar School of Economics, University, Bengaluru. Sir, over to you for moderating, and welcome you.
Namaste to all. Thank you, Ramya Madam, for that wonderful introduction of all the panelists. On my right, we have Professor Keshava. From the point of view of this particular panel discussion, let me introduce Keshava. Why he is relevant for this particular discussion today. Basically, he is an economist, a socially oriented economist who has lot of aspiration towards the youngsters and also the overall, not only economic development, so overall inclusive development of the country. That's his area of interest. You can find him after every budget, whether it is state or national, you can find him on most of the channels for next 1 month. I think today also we may have to go some channel to debate on the budget. And on the same time, he is professor of economics in Bengaluru University. He knows the entire education spectrum, worked in NEP, and interestingly, he was member and headed many government committees also. So the policy, private sector, government sector, public university, education, and then the economy. That's the reason Professor Keshava sir is here today. On my left, Hemanth. He is also actually blended with both education and industry. An young entrepreneur, achieved a lot through his Colpal and the Digii and many other ventures that he had started. At the same time, so that's where he is an industry leader and an aspiration to develop a big company. And look at the interesting part. He would like to connect the industry and the education through technology. That's his specialization area. He worked in Manipal University for a couple of years. That's his educational understanding of the domain of education. Now, as a part of Digii, he is providing technological solutions to educational institutions. So, if you look at the country today, we are more aspiring to become a technology advanced country and use technology everywhere, whether it is artificial intelligence or in the manufacturing sector, all the latest technology available. I think why not in education? That's what is the basic thinking, and then he started working towards that. He closely worked with faculty and institutions to develop his software or whatever the technological platform that he is doing. So that's the reason he is relevant for today's discussion. Madhavi Lokhande again, even though she is completely into education now, in her past career she worked in industry. Now she conducts a lot of training program and MDPs for education leaders as well as for the corporate leaders. So she has an understanding of what is corporate and how it works and how it contributes to the overall development of the economy. And in the management education with a lot of experience, so she can bring that management perspective for even economic development or overall development of the country. That's what I look at from your side. So that's the reason. So she is again blend of this management, overall education, industry, and skill development, youth aspirations. I think that's the reason you are here, madam. So I am here because I don't know anything. I want to learn something like you. So that's the reason I'm here. Whatever questions that you ask and how these people are going to answer, that's going to be my takeaways. So that's the reason I am here. So basically I'm asking questions without knowing answers. Okay. Yeah, let us start the entire discussion. The topic is beautifully coined by the organizers. I'm one of the organizers, so that's the reason credit goes to me also. What is the role of education in achieving the Viksit Bharat 2047? So a lot of topics are here. Role of education. How to integrate this entire education into the overall development of the country, not necessarily only the economic development. So that is one angle of looking into the education with the progress path that we would like to follow and achieve after 2047 or at 2047. Viksit Bharat, whether it is Viksit Bharat or Vikassheel Bharat. So recently I attended a panel discussion where one of the panelists were telling, so we should always be Vikassheel Bharat. So once we said Viksit Bharat, that's end of. So I don't want to have a debate on that today, but anyway, that's an issue. And how this elements, all other elements that goes with education and how education contribute towards this. I think these are the three angles that we have today for the discussion. Um, let me, we'll go like this, sir, if you permit, madam. So initially 7 to 8 minutes, you can give your opening remarks. Then I think we will go to the discussions, Q&A from the moderator side and also from the audience side. So since always in our tradition, ladies is first, so let me go with Madhavi Lokhande, madam. So can you give your opening remarks for, so there are many ladies are there, so they are clapping for you. So I had gone with the majority. So yeah. So that to that extent I am safe here. Madam, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, 100 years of independence. And if we look back in the hindsight and say, what have we seen in this entire journey? And where are we headed when we say 2047 and we want to have this celebratory of 100 years? But if you go back and look at India as a nation and how it has evolved and pre-independence, somewhere there is this tendency, for us as a nation to constantly bow down to a power, right? So be it the Muslim invasion, be it the Britishers, not that we were falling short of wealth within the nation. India was one of the richest countries. Sone ki chidiya. That's how it was, addressed and known. So right from the wealth it carried in terms of, one, the physical wealth, which is be it the gold, be it the jewelry, be it the gems, which today is still sitting in London in the museum, the Kohinoor, be it the wealth in terms of the physical wealth, or the kingdoms and the richness of heritage and culture, or right from the days of, kings when we've heard stories of Tenali Rama, we've known of Aryabhatta, we've known of Arya Chanakya. So even in terms of knowledge, I think we had a huge, huge repository. But then there is this tendency to follow and not be a leader and be a follower, right? And that's where you see these invasions in India and wanting to succumb to somebody, getting divided into groups. Unfortunately, that still exists in the country today. Getting divided into the groups and, start following rather than leading. But the trend we see in the last 1 or 2 decades that India wants to be at the forefront. India wants to lead. And India wants to take a position and stance and not just sit on the fence. And I think that we are seeing that attitude everywhere. Right at the top, the leadership. We are seeing it in the global CEOs. Most of the companies today are headed by Indians. We are seeing it in the more women force, which is now working and is no longer restricted to just playing the role of a homemaker. We are also seeing it in young India, where a lot more people are wanting to venture with startups. We've seen, in 2024, we are talking about 1 lakh plus startups. And most of these startups are by youngsters who are not just now stuck in that silo of saying engineering, medicine, or a fixed job and a fixed pay, but they want to experiment. So this is this entire change in the shift of thinking, ethos, and the way we are headed. Now, if we talk of Viksit Bharat and we say there are 4 pillars, right? We are saying Kisan, we are saying Garib, we are saying Mahila, and we are saying Yuva. One common thread for all these 4 pillars, which I see, is education. And it is great that in 2020, after so many years, we've seen that there is an intent to have a policy, the NEP, and to talk about the student and the learner at the center of it, rather than put university or a professor or only the faculty at the center, which means try and create an ecosystem where the learner feels that he has a lot more choice. Otherwise, we all have studied, and I'm sure this holds good for all of us, we all have studied in a regime where we had very less choice. In fact, I remember after my 10th, and in my 10th my score was 98%, and I wanted to pick up commerce. My family members they were so upset that they didn't talk to me for 3 months. They said, who studied economics and commerce? Of course, this is way back then when economics and commerce were treated as subjects which you could take if you did not want to be in mainstream of sciences. So we've moved from that era where we are talking about liberal arts, we are talking about design, we are talking about innovation. Within engineering, we're talking so many branches. In medicine, medicine has branched out to so many, including talking about medical equipments and talking about trying to look at neurosciences area. So we have traversed this journey, and I think the 4 pillars on which the Viksit Bharat has been designed, the education has to be a horizontal which will connect all these people, be it Kisan, because he needs to know technology, understand technology and how he can sell his produce. Women need to be much more empowered and be at the top of the jobs, whatever, break the glass ceiling and get to the top leadership position. You are, of course, this is needed because they are looking at careers not just in India but globally. And of course, the one game changer for, the have-nots to become haves in India, we have a great social divide. So the 4th pillar, poor, that also, if education can empower, it will create a lot more livelihoods. So I'll stop with that opening remarks of mine, and that's where I see the role of education in 2047, wherein we will have a lot more power to choose, decide, education to become a lot more affordable, very, very inclusive, and I think that should be the main agenda where it will empower all these 4 pillars. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Affordability, part of education, inclusive, and then a lot of choices that you are talking about, which was not earlier available, now it is available for the learners. I think that's, if we are able to open up our education sector like that, it contributes finally to the overall development of the economy. I think you are also focused on women education and empowering them to get more of employment opportunity and things like that. Connecting to the history, to the present, and that's how we can take it forward to achieve the goal. So thanks for that opening remarks. Sir, for you, yeah. Okay, yes, since you are a professor, I can't say no to you to go there. Adam Smith's definition of wealth of nation, or Leonard Robbins' definition of scarcity, and I don't know what is the definition of Keshava, sir. Please, go ahead, sir.
Good morning to one and all. Respected Gowrisha sir, Hemanth sir, and Madhavi madam. Joshi sir is also there, Ashok sir, and invitees. Indeed, very happy to be part of it. Within 8 minutes, I tried to summarize, what exactly is in my mind when Gowrisha sir called me for this panel discussion. In case if India had to become Viksit Bharat, then the definition by World Bank is it should have $14,000 as a per capita income by 2047. So at present we have $2,600. So from 2000 to $14,000. So World Bank has already warned India may be within that middle income trap. You may fall it in the middle income trap. With these lines, in this present era where the uncertainty is the only certainty, India this year, this financial year, had the growth rate of 6.4%, but we are expected to grow at 8+% in another 22 years. In case if we want to grow at 8+% for another 22 years, then the women labor force should grow synonymously, probably by 2047 it should be 70%. Labor force should be 70%. Right now it is around 32 or 33. Without intervention it will be 45 by 2047. So in case if we really want to become Viksit Bharat by that time, then education should be the foundation. Undoubtedly, yes, madam also has told about it. So education equips ethics and values, right, definitely which we lack. It also gives us the critical thinking. It also helps us in problem solving. All this, all of us know. It also helps us to learn the advanced skills, including the AI, data analytics, whatsoever, all those things that which is required for us to get employment, also to enhance our productivity. But here the crucial thing is education will provide, why education is crucial? Because education provides you positive externalities. Education provides you positive externalities, and that is the reason that why education becomes very crucial for us. And another important thing is education as a merit good also helps the individual to enhance his productivity, standard of living, and thereby the economic growth of the country. So overall education will be the foundation stone, cornerstone, call it anything, it is the most thing. In case if India really want to attain developed status by 2047, then we should concentrate on education more. And moreover, India is enjoying the demographic dividend, which will be enjoying till 2055. So if India has to reap the benefits, when Japan enjoyed the demographic dividend, it grew by 2 digits because, it gave a lot of importance to education. Education also leads to empowerment of all the Indians. We call it as an inclusive growth, sabka saath, sabka vikas. That will happen only with education. And even the 5 Panchapran, which Modi ji spoke in the 75th year of India's independence, even that can be attained only through education. I will say 1 or 2. Taking pride in our legacy, which Madam was highlighting, or removing any trace of colonial mindset, still which we are hanging on, and a resolve of developed India, our strength of unity, fulfilling the duties of the civilized society, that's our country. So all this can happen only, the Pancha Pran will be realized only in case if this education is given the due importance. In case if it doesn't happen, then India will never become Viksit Bharat. Let me be clear on that. And for many years, central government, state governments have done a lot of things. I'm not saying they have not done enough. But only thing they, all these years the government tried to do is they concentrated on creating more literacy rates rather than the educated. So probably the problem today is we have more literacy rate, less educated in this country. So that is the crucial issue. So even in this budget, for Pade Bharat, there a good amount of money has been released and good amount of schemes government has done. I will not read out all that, including Nali Kali of Karnataka has been praised in the economic survey as one of the good initiatives. And RTE, Sarva Shikshan Abhiyan, all these things are doing really good. But in the reality, when we speak of the tech-enabled learning, when we speak of the digital learning programs, all fine, India, we will be really happy to understand all this and say, when I read them, I'll be really happy. But when you go to the ground and see, then, things will be altogether definitely changed. The employability as envisaged in the economic survey of last year, it is 48.5%. The statistic, among the educated I'm speaking. So Statistica also comes out with the same data, and many research surveys on this also has come out with the same data. Probably many of you must have read the recent Infosys laid out that 700 freshers, who couldn't complete their 3 assignments. So all this which Infosys took were the cream on the campus interview. What type of education are we really imparting? In case if we keep on giving this type of education, then will we be able to attain the Viksit Bharat is what always, brooms in my mind. Generally, when we speak of the NEP has everything that which is required for India to make it Viksit. But are we really, on the ground doing that, what the policy requires? Immediate question is who is failing? Who is failing education? Probably teachers like me, and if at all if the students are here, students both are equally responsible. And in case, the society, the ambit, everything also matters. When we speak of the education as a foundation stone for all the development process, let me also try to highlight few things, which I have seen and witnessed, which I have experienced in my life. The recent ASR report last week, which has been released, kindly go through that report. It is saying 76.6% of the class 3rd students are unable to read a simple regional language textbooks. And 66.3% of the students in 3rd standard, 70% of the class 5 students are unable to read the 5th standard are unable to do a simple arithmetic problems. So it's almost like a clear divide. In one small group who are very highly talented students are also there, but the another huge chunk, who doesn't know what they are learning are also with us. I have seen the students who come from northern part of the state doing for their PhD in my university under my guidance itself. Whenever I ask them, write one page independently on whatever topic you wish. Write on your own district, no problem, but write one page. But, you give them 1 hour also, they'll be unable to write even one line. So this is the fact. And, what type of research are we producing? And NEP speaks of, experiential learning, hands-on learning. As a teacher, are we trained? When NAP was introduced, all of us were asked to do prepare the syllabus. A state committee was done. Teachers were not trained. Teachers were never trained with the experiential learning, and those who never trained nor never thought using the model of the experiential learning, framed the syllabus. And these kinds of things, that will definitely lead to the disaster. And moreover, when, we, with lot of ambition, introduced internship among the graduation. But finally, that also has ended up like the project work of the post-graduation department. For the post-graduate department, we introduced, earlier I used to listen to this. All the, in front of the many engineering colleges, maybe exception will be the RV college where my sir is sitting. There are many good number of colleges in this country where in front of, around the engineering colleges, there will be a good number of Xerox centers, which will be preparing the projects for them. You tell them the topic, he will be giving you the ready handmade project for you. And the same thing has happened even for the postgraduate projects also, ready with the things. Somebody will be writing on Bangalore, Control F, make it Kolar and give it off. So these kinds of things is happening, and Murali sir also knows it better. Even Kolar also is not exception for this. So all these things, because I'm also from the same place. And how can we make this system fail, right? How is that we are cleverly making the system fail? We are failing ourselves, we are failing India. And, if this continues, then, there is no other go. And, government is also spending crores of rupees, billions of rupees on teachers to train them. And you organize any of the faculty development program, many of them come for the certificates. I'm not saying all of them, but many of them. Let us introspect ourselves. We definitely registration, how many? 250 registrations. How many are present? 40. And 250, all certificates also will go to them. So any seminar, conferences will be like this. And in case if this, all the things will be there, then it will be really difficult for us to attain Viksit Bharat. That doesn't mean that I'm pessimist. I'm optimist. And for which, even Government of India recognized me last year with the President National Best Teachers Award. The thing is, I'm really optimistic. Only thing is, all of us should join hands. Both the students and teachers should join hands in this. All of us should, with the commitment, right? With the teachers, with their integrity, should plan. And in case, if we don't join together, then we will be doing an Himalayan blunder where we cannot correct ourselves. This is the great time, right? When the government, Modi ji spoke of Amrit Kal, he also spoke of Kartavya Kal. So Kartavya Kal is all about the teachers, students doing the role, right? If all of us join hands, then definitely the role of education in Viksit Bharat will be there, and India will definitely become a developed country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kartavya Kal, that is required to bring that Amrit Kal so that we can achieve the objective. So in your talk, there is something Katta Mita. So that means at the macro level, a lot of positive things are happening, a lot of schemes are coming up. But if you look at the ground reality at the micro level, institutional level, individual level, there are a lot of lacunas and gaps. Unless otherwise we fill these gaps, I think nothing that can be achieved what is that we are aspiring. So that you have brought out very well with some of the statistics from the budget as well as the World Bank. So I think that speaks about what is the responsibility of every individual citizen of this country. More importantly, all stakeholders of education, specifically the faculty, of course, who are managing, leading the institutions. Very well you have brought out, sir. I'll come back to you. I have a couple of questions to you. So next, we have Mr. Hemanth. So you had seen the education and you are even now connected with education, and you are an entrepreneur, and at the same time your domain is technology. So how you can see this technology education contributing towards the larger goal or purpose of the country?
Thank you so much. The benefit of speaking the last is you don't have the intellectual burden of making sense, because the speakers have already covered most of the points, so you can just speak whatever and then still we have covered the ground. But so see, why education, first of all, why education will be the biggest player in the Viksit Bharat journey for us is, I personally believe 3 services play the largest role in any individual's life: faith, healthcare, and education. faith is something personal to us, right? It doesn't have much of a difference on the financials or the livelihood of individuals. Healthcare comes to your rescue when you need it, right? But it's only education which is life changing. So there's a fundamental difference in the quality of lives or the families of people who are well educated versus people who are not, except some exceptions, but mostly, right? So there's no doubt that education will continue to play the largest role if we have to become a developed or a Viksit country. Number two is, we have established, yes, education is one of the biggest, drivers of this. Then what in education, right? And I, even in the startup that I run or other, I follow this Brahma Vishnu Mahesh model, right? Whenever you are at A, you want to go to B, do the Brahma Vishnu Mahesh model, which is what you should create, which is not there. What is it that's already there, but you need to maintain, keep it as is. Third, what Mahesh does, right, is what do you need to destroy to make sure that you're getting right? So I'll talk about points from this lens of create, maintain, and destroy, right? So first fact is that at India, like Sir mentioned, if we really have to be a developed country, we need to figure out a way to leverage a demographic dividend. By 2047, roughly 1.1 billion Indians would be in the working age, right? 1.1 billion, which is a substantial number. And historically, we have seen the countries who have not managed their demographic dividend carefully have landed up in trouble, right? So what is the challenge of managing this demographic dividend? Twofold. First of all, as of today, we have 28% gross enrollment ratio, which means only 28% of the youngsters who should be in college are actually in college. Number two, only 50% of these, or 48 to 50% of these 26 or 8% who are there are actually employable. That's a double problem, right? So here, there has to be a lot of, first of all, the Mahesh model, first of all, right? Which is, we have to really look at the way we are imparting education today, because we have to first solve our effectiveness problem. That why that only 50 or 48% of the students enrolling into our higher education institutions are employable. And you're not even talking about the quality of employability of the rest of the 50%, right? So that's the number one thing, right? How do we rethink our education system, to make sure the effectiveness goes to about at least 70-80%, which is what a developed country's number look like in terms of employability. Number two is, how do we make sure more of this young population, which is supposed to be in higher education, goes into higher education, which will start way earlier at the school level. Because usually the numbers from schools to higher education dropout is lesser. It happens mostly even before the school, right? So that's which is again something where the government has to play a really big role, because if you really have to improve the completion rates in school, make more students go to colleges, government is the biggest player. And as we see, some of the best countries in the world have a very strong government-backed education system, right? That was the number one point of how to manage a demographic dividend. Number two, in my mind, is the Bharat and India divide. Because I think historically, as we say, that Indians are not poor, but India is poor, right? Because there is a huge gap between the India and Bharat, which is, again, I feel one of the very critical areas where we will have to look at if we really want to be a developed country. Because when we say developed country, it has to be a developed country for every single Indian, and not just limited pockets of people living in some of the big cities, right? And the way to look at it is the education models that have worked for India may not work for Bharat, because we really have to take a fast sprint, right? We don't have, so we have already spent like more than 75 years, and still we are yet solving our, big city education problems, but we have hardly any time left for 2047, so we'll have to really rethink, how are we going to address the education. And biggest challenge being, again, from a technology, the access to technology does not exist. Because I remember, we had the director of Digital Bharat Vahini, the government project in connecting all the rural areas with broadband there. I think almost less than 30% of the rural households have internet connectivity today. So that's, I think, the very critical area for us to address. How do we make sure that the Bharat gets its due attention when it comes to education? And third point, which is very important. Being a developed country means you are at the forefront of industry, right? You're not just doing the second order jobs, right? You are actually at the forefront. And if you look at what has made US or Israel is the kind of research that has come from their institutions. See, whether we use mobile phones today, internet, search engines, even artificial intelligence, the source or the root of all these technologies you can find in higher education institutions in these countries, right? Because the fundamental research happens there. They are the ones who will do the research, bring it out, and then somebody will pick it and run with it, and then the industry will evolve. So if we really want to be a developed country, we have to go beyond teaching and look at how our education institutions really create research of that value, where India can also get to the forefront of technology and industry and not just do the second level jobs or just do companies which are just merely in basic services industry, right? So those are my views in terms of what education has to do to help us become a developed country.
Yeah, I think you have brought out very well the last point, that what type of education and what is that you look for education which can really contribute to the development. That is basically research and the best possible way to integration of technology into the education. So I think that is some of the missing link where Keshava sir has brought out something very fundamental things, and you brought out from the perspective of research. And I think most of us are liked your analogy of faith, healthcare, and the education, so which is what we are discussing. Sorry. And another analogy, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. I think so. That are the two analogies you brought out. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we heard to all the introductory remarks from all the three speakers. But still, I have a fundamental question, even though it is, we read in many papers and also gone through many of the channels whenever people will talk on Viksit Bharat. Nowadays, I think that is more discussed. Still, this question to take it to the next level of this discussion, what is that Viksit Bharat that we are really aiming? Is it only economic development, or is it beyond economic development? And how to make it very inclusive? So that's my fundamental question. So this time I will go with my right side.
When we speak of Viksit Bharat, it's also economic development, social development, and overall development. It's a holistic development. And whenever we speak of Viksit Bharat, why economy will be focused more? Because all the majority of the definitions are in terms of economics. In case if you want to be a developed country, then you should have this much, 14,000 per capita income, per dollars, all these things are there. So that is the reason that money tend to think, but India's concept of Viksit Bharat is very holistic. It's very clearly telling inclusive Viksit Bharat, including everybody, so that the fruits, when we speak of increase in the GDP also, it also means the same, that the fruits of the development will be with all persons, all the people in the country. So when each and everyone participate in the process of growth, and when each and everyone enjoys the fruits of the development, then only Viksit Bharat will happen.
There are 2 points that I was able to observe from you. One is basically that you said inclusive and things like that. But the interesting is economic, that we are taking indicators to say this is Viksit Bharat. Then if you said inclusive, then the thing is, what are the indicators in other areas? I will ask Madhavi madam.
So I agree to your point. When we say Viksit Bharat, then what are or who are the people who are required to be given that push or impetus? So I will go back and take an analogy. So when we were growing up, and let's say about 2 decades back, I think the issues we were still talking about in India was how India is a center which can provide cheap labor, cheap service, right? We were known saying, okay, IT companies, the work could be done at a cheaper cost. It was all about cost effectiveness. We also grew up reading a lot more about corruption. We grew up about all kind of quotas and license Raj. We also saw a lot of discussion around, especially when budgets used to come, the priority would be what is the defense budget. And we've heard so much about the Bofors deal, or we've heard about the Swiss bank accounts. If you look at the narrative now, we are talking of a narrative where right now the Prime Minister is talking about how India will be at the forefront of driving AI. We are talking topics like capacity building, we are talking Startup India, we are talking about skilling India and reskilling India, we are talking about the women power, we are talking about so many schemes which according to me is talking more, the entire essence of it is development. It is no longer about, the entire regime of control. Now we are talking about areas which are more on the focus of development. When we say development, a baby also grows up to become a toddler and then, a young adult. In the process, they will fall. Point is, falling 7 times is okay, but you should be able to get up 8 times. And I still think, despite our 75 years, somewhere India is doing this balancing act of saying, how do we project ourselves to be a leader, be it healthcare, be it AI. We have moved our ranking in the Global Innovation Index. We are talking a lot more about the GCCs. We are talking about having a lot more innovation, including in healthcare. I think COVID has proved that, right? In India. So the entire shift is happening, and this is a shift towards Viksit Bharat. Are we going to achieve it? That's a different question, but at least we are trying now. Because 2 decades back, I was not even sure if we were trying to be where we are today. But this one stint of COVID has taught us that the entire nation can go digital if it wants to. Right from your milk vendor to your maid to the car driver to the vegetable vendor, they all started accepting digital payments, which even 5 years back people were laughing, saying, oh, in villages you don't even have electricity. How are you going to provide mobile phones? We are not talking that today. We are talking about, in fact, immediately after demonetization, some of the students in my college, they did this study. They said, let's go to some of the pockets in Karnataka, the villages, and ask if they are okay with demonetization, which means not having money. Are they okay with it? Surprisingly, sir, 80% said, all that is fine. I wish somebody had told us, how do you have a PAN card? How does one get a PAN card? Or how do you apply for it? And how do you have a bank account? So the issue was not about the initiative or the reforms. The issue is about that perhaps we are not preparing for them for the change. Biggest companies, when they say there's going to be a merger or there's going to be change, then they talk things about change management. They say, how do we, go around preparing the employees? So while these changes are happening, unfortunately, there is no institution, no body or no organization which is preparing the citizens for that change. And that is where I think education has a huge role, be it public, be it private, be it voluntary, or be it any kind of a charitable cause. I think there should be an effort in preparing these people for what we want to be in 2047 and where we should be headed.
Yeah, I think there is a couple of points in your talk while answering to my question. So earlier we were all heading towards what? We didn't have a clue. I think now we have a specific goal that where we are heading towards. To that extent, the perspectives are changing, narratives are changing. And we say the development, and suddenly we are telling, no, it's not development, it is holistic development. So inclusive, many jargons that we are using. I think that is a very good observation from you. And finally, in whole this picture, education has a role to play. But the thing is, you also mentioned at the end that the country or the policy makers or even in the education, we are preparing the society to take this technology or anything else to make really the country a Viksit Bharat or to achieve that particular goal. So we are preparing. So in this context, preparing context, what is that education role? What education has to play a role to prepare Bharat to achieve the goal? Sir, you.
Yeah, so first of all, see, I think Sir mentioned about literacy versus education, right? I remember, hearing somebody share this beautiful line which has always stayed with me, and it's in Hindi. Sorry if some of you don't understand. I'll translate in English. It said कि डिग्री तो पढ़ाई के खर्चों की रसीदें हैं, डिग्री तो पढ़ाई के खर्चों की रसीदें हैं, असली तालीम तो वो है जो किरदार में नजर आती है, which is degrees are just receipts of the pay, like the cost that you have spent on education. The real education is what gets reflected in your character, right? So I think if we really are talking about a developed country, we really need to start differentiating between degree and education. Because when we say education beyond degrees, then education has a much larger canvas in terms of aspirations, which ma'am talked about, in terms of ethics and values that sir spoke about, because it's very, very critical. But I want to definitely talk about one of the other points that you mentioned initially around economy, right? See, at a business level, we are very, very clear, right, that the only way to measure success of a company is to look at how much money does it make. Why? Because it can suddenly be very confusing, saying, no, how can money be the only motive? We are not saying money is the only motive. But the only way to measure the success of a company is of how much money does it makes, because that reflects, are you solving a real problem? Number one. If you are solving a real problem, then people are ready to pay you for it, and that's the only way you can build a large profitable company in the long term. Because by taking shortcuts, doing Ponzi schemes, you can never be a large company in the long term, right? Similarly, in my opinion, if you're talking about a developed country, the only way we should look at ourselves, are we a developed country or not, is to look at what is the per capita income in this country. Because everything else will fall in place eventually, and we will have time to solve more problems later. Because give me an example of a country which is developed, has high per capita income and has education problems, has healthcare problems. Hardly any country would be there. So I think we should not have any doubt about it. The only way to measure ourselves, at least for the first milestone, whether we are become a developed country or not, is to look at our economy. And economy at a per capita level, and not just a, lopsided where only few people are rich and rest are. So we have to look at the overall. That's my view, right? Last thing which you mentioned about how do we bring education, aspirations, right? I think the good thing about India today is that we have actually a very diverse economy. There are people, I am sure, how many of you watch Shark Tank India? Anybody has watched? I would strongly recommend all of you to watch it. Not just because you're interested in startups, because it's showing you the real growth that's happening in India. There are students coming from Satara, from cities in Bihar, and they're making crores of revenue selling achar, selling some different things. And that's when we talk about the real economic growth, that is what we are talking about. That how do we, and they are also learning. So Shark Tank, for example, is a big learning. The other day my wife, was asking me questions about gross margins in my company, and I was surprised. I said, what happened? And she was watching Shark Tank and asking me those questions, right? So that's also education, because more and more people are getting aware about what is entrepreneurship. And I always say, you don't become somebody by looking at stalwarts. Like, see, I will not become an entrepreneur looking at Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. I'll become an entrepreneur looking at people nearby. I'll not become a great economist just reading about some of the Nobel laureates, right? I become a great economist by looking at people around me, and I get inspiration from them. So education, in my opinion, has far bigger role than just delivering degrees to students who are coming. And if we can get that right, probably we are on the path to a developed country.
So at every stage, I think education has to play a role. So we really would like to achieve the Viksit Bharat. And I think you mentioned very well that effort should be happened in all the sides. And at the same time, per capita income, and not just the per capita income calculated based on the average of only few people have larger pockets of income and others no income or less income. That doesn't going to work really if you would like to have them achieve the whatever the targets that we have set. But Keshava sir, you also brought out in the initial remarks that a lot of problems in the education sector, I think nowadays I am observing even in the education seminars, people are largely talking on challenges than the problems. That's one good sign that we can see. But having said this, even by bringing out a wonderful policy like National Education Policy 2020, do you think that in terms of implementation, where the government level or at the institutional level, still we are finding no clues or a lot of gaps and we're not clear? A lot of regulations are coming out but not happening. But really, including economic education in this scenario, so what is the role of educators, faculty and leaders of education? They have to play a role to give quality education or education which really improve our economic performance, employment for students and things like that. So that ultimately that adds to the overall per capita income or the GDP target or entrepreneurship, etc. So what is that, sir? That I would like to seek from you.
When NEP was implemented in Bengaluru University, we were the first university to introduce the UG courses. A good number of good papers were introduced. Even for the art students, we introduced artificial intelligence for social sciences, then data analytics. All these were compulsory papers for across arts or social science streams. What happened after 15 or 20 days after the beginning of the class, I just went to a classroom and the artificial intelligence class was going on. Then I saw a teacher from the commerce department was teaching artificial intelligence, keeping a book with her. I did ask her, who permitted you to teach this? We had written a letter to concerned department and they in fact had sent her. So we don't have any clue. So if these kinds of things, even a very good NEP policy can also be foiled. First thing is the rigorous training for the teachers who are willing to learn. Not for all the teachers, Few of them, I've always seen this. Many of them will say, no, I will be retiring in another 3 years, 4 years. All these years I have thought this. Why should I change? Leave all of them. There are a good number of youngsters who are willing to learn and teach. Let them involve them. So when we give them rigorous training and test them before, for every test, for every administrative service, you have an exam in this country. But for the teaching, you have only this NET, SLET. I know how you can pass it. Even I was a JRF in my first attempt in 1995. But, this is not the way you can see whether he's a good teacher or not. Whether he can deliver it properly to the students. Whether he has the adaptability to learn and then teach to the students. Because each student is different. If each student is different, when I have 80, in my class I have 80. In case if I don't understand their strength and weakness, keep on teaching them, it goes above their head. So those teachers should be trained, and when we can do that, then things will change. Other than that, on the macro level, we keep on speaking, oh, this is a very good, you have all this chapter, you have inclusivity in this, you have a special scheme for the marginalized sections in this, for the women in this. Yes, I do agree, because good amount of time, energy of the experts have gone in it. But the same effort should have gone through in the implementation also. In case if we had done that, probably we would have had now we are speaking of the embedded, apparatus embedded programs in Karnataka. Again, it will also be of the similar sort, I tell you. And all these things, unless and until teacher will not have the integrity, and all those stakeholders will not have the integrity. Just because I am there as the head of that institution, I'll be trying to bring in my kith and kin or those whom I know as a teaching faculty over there. That, I've seen it in many places. Even in the private institutions, I've seen that. So all this should go. Education, we call it as a temple. By Hindu culture, we always, the Indian culture, whenever we speak of the education, we speak it as a temple of learning. But what is that we are doing with the temple of learning? Are we really, imparting the knowledge, the true knowledge which should be imparted? It's not only about the employment when I speak. My co-panelist Hemanth was mentioning about this. You give them good knowledge, he will be successful elsewhere also. Need not be that is his education, maybe in economics, but he can utilize that and do something else also. Or he may learn commerce and do something else also. Physics also do something. So this overall personality development, ability, patience, ethics, values, honesty, and ability to observe the new technology.
So all these things should be embedded within this education. That is what it is all about. We are definitely thinking about the mass production. We are saying it's good. I'm not saying it is bad. We are saying by 2035 we should be 35%, by 2050 we should be 50%. All is fine. But that 50%, 35% should be of a quality one. Only then it matters. Otherwise, will not make any difference, I tell you. Huge number of my own students, economic students are coming to the market. And many a times they will be, even if somebody is offering them 25,000 per month, they will be happy to go. To that extent, we should not prepare. And recently, I was reading about the railways advertisement, which they had called for the Group D post. So 25 lakh applications. Out of them, 246, the minimum standard, which was minimum qualification was 10th standard. How many applied? 25 lakhs. 245 of them were PhD. And MTech, 8,000 people of MTech had applied. You can check it on your Google also, it is there. It will take you to the link. So these kinds, what does it reflect? One thing is, I am sure that my education will not lead me anywhere, or the education that which I have got is not of a quality. So why are we wasting the time of our youngsters, in case if we cannot give them the good education? So all of us, right, in this, all the stakeholders, I keep on telling it on various forums. So all the stakeholders should think very seriously. If I am a teacher, I should think, NEP speaks about lifelong learning. First, am I learning every day? If I am not learning every day, then I will not be teaching. Then I can, many a times, my teachers, I have been inspired by teachers. I am inspired by M.K. Sridhar sir. At this age also, he keeps reading and speaks on something. So like this, we need teachers, who can always inspire us, navigate us, tell us, go in this direction, learn this, then you can lead your own life. He did not have to tell us that is your goal. But if it, tell us, this is the route that which you can go, I will be definitely successful. Probably we should think on those lines.
Yeah, I think maybe in the faculty group, interested and willing faculty are there. There are some, they are not interested, willing, just as a job they are doing. So we need to focus more on these people who are passionate about teaching. I think we must be trained. So training these faculty is, I think, one of the need of the hour, so that we can influence on learners and the overall education. Orienting learners about what they are learning and what is that they can aim in the future is also equally important. I think these days we are observing that in the education scenario. I think we have brought out very well by giving the relevant examples of latest what's happening in the sector. So, Hemanth sir, if again, how this, because when we say education, the institutional development is also an important aspect. So I think best institutions, how to build this best institutions is a question mark always. In that context, either technology or overall industry, how they can play a role to institutional development. Faculty part, I think Keshava sir has brought out very well. So that now institution part, so that it can contribute to the overall education and the economy.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
sorry. Before I go to the Hemanth and next Madhavi madam, so please prepare with your question. So I think next round we will take it from the audience.
So very simply, see, if you look at any learning environment, right? So when you said, that we have to really focus a lot on the teachers, I think even before teachers, we have to focus a lot more on our learners. And what do I mean by that is, it's very beautifully said that when a learner is there, a teacher will appear, right? What is more important is the learner should be there first, right? Because a teacher's passion for teaching a lot of times is also driven by the quality of learners the teacher has, right? So I think what is very tough to do in today's environment is for the learner to be more conscious about why they need to learn, what they need to learn, which is very difficult in today. 80 to 90% of the classroom, the learners are clueless about why they are in that classroom, why they should study this subject, what are they going to do the subject, right? And I remember attending a session at National Institute of Advanced Sciences, where they were actually talking about this very beautiful session, which says any learning environment has two key things: a conscious learner and then the learning construct around it, right? So if I think we've done decently well on the construct. We have institutions, we have libraries, we have teachers, we have books, all of that. I think we've done very poorly on the learner's consciousness part. So what technology, in my view, can do really well and accelerate is how do you make a learner more conscious about what their aspirations, their learning styles, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, right? I remember my 4 years of education, I have studied from Hemanth Kumar, who was one roll number before me. He was a topper of the class. I used to learn from him better than my teachers, because my learning style is peer learning. I learn far better from my peers than anybody else. Even today in entrepreneurship, I go to a lot of other entrepreneurs and sit and learn from them on things to do as against anybody else. So it's very important to be conscious of your learning styles, your aspirations, your constraints, right? What can you do, what you cannot do. So in my opinion, if technology has to play a role, yes, there are so many other things that technology will, but one thing if we can do better is how do we help our learners be more conscious of themselves, their learning styles, their aspirations and everything. And then I think a teacher and institution's job will get easier.
I think the role of institution is to focus on learners. So learner has to be trained, and so that faculty has to be trained. I think it's a chain. So that's what Hemanth is bringing out. I think, so these learners definitely, if they do better in their education, I think that itself is a great contribution. So that's the institution has to think about it. Yeah, please.
Adding to what Hemanth was telling, without Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, there probably would have been no Vivekananda. Or without Vivekananda, we would not have had a Ramakrishna mission. We would not have known Ramakrishna also. So it both matters.
Yeah, that really makes sense, sir. Thank you. I have a different type of question to you, madam. So the moment we say economic growth, Hemanth, I think, repeatedly talked about this. It is overall everybody's growth, not some few in that context again. So finally, when we say that we are all developed nation, where we have a lot of economic prosperity, a lot of employment, with all this we will have health problem, education problem, all this will definitely be there. So unless otherwise people are not happy, then how can you say that the country is a Viksit Bharat or country is a developed nation? So I think the role of education, so our research scholar and my friend Girish is here. He has this question in his mind. My study is also on happiness during my PhD. So happiness of people is ultimately important to call as it is a developed nation, what we feel. And to bringing this happiness, what is the role of education? Community happiness, role of education.
So I also want to add a little bit to what both of them spoke initially about faculty training, learner-centric and learner's approach. So I have a slightly different point of view in this. We still say education is one of the least paying sectors across all the sectors in the nation, which means teacher and the role of teacher has never been made aspirational, especially for the younger generation. So when we talk about, industry academia interface and how industry and academia can collaborate, I get a lot of people from the industry, very well paid, at the top of the game in their company, and then they come back and say, you know what, I want to contribute back to the society, and so therefore, weekends I don't mind coming and teaching. The minute they hear the rate per hour, they say, is this what you're paying? Because at IIMs, it is 10,000 per hour, 20,000 per hour. So there is this set of institutions which are of national importance, prominence, where there is a lot of grant, subsidy, financial backing, which perhaps the institutions, and I'm talking both higher education, school education also, where that backing is not there for private institutions. Now, should we go back and reflect and say, is there money in education? Yes, there is money in education, because that has now become like a necessity. Everybody wants to get educated. So this is a product which can be sold to everybody in the country, whatever be the price. You could be charging 4 lakhs for a seat, you could be charging 14 lakhs for the seat, you could be charging 4,000 for a seat. So is there a product? Is there a demand? Yes. Is there flow of money? Yes. But is this money going to the actual providers of this education? Because on one side we are talking of infrastructure, we are talking investment in the labs, but we are never talking about investment in teachers. Teacher training, faculty development programs are ticks in the box. So, if I am able to become a role model for the student, which I think this teacher as a role model, I think it is dead about 15 to 20 years ago. Very few of us are today even talking about who is the teacher who taught me. In fact, today's generation is so transactional, they are like, okay, this is your job. You're just teaching me, but otherwise I can also learn from the internet. Because COVID taught us that everything is available on this device. I don't need to come to the class. And therein comes saying what is the value add that you can give to the student. I'll talk of two different scenarios and I'll link it to what you're saying. So I happened to attend this session of Ashwath Damodaran. Any finance faculty here? They will know who Ashwath Damodaran is, right? One of the best professors in the world today in finance, who's written books on valuation. His books on valuation are treated like Bible, right? So I attended one.
And just to add, he has interestingly written the black side of valuation also.
Side of valuation also. So I happened to meet him because I attended one of his sessions, and he was teaching in Envoyston full time at that time. And I said, what is the strength of your class? So we were talking about India and he was talking about US. So I said, India classrooms, it goes into some 100, 200 students. So how do you connect with your student? So you know what he told me? He has 400 students in his finance class. And all his notes, all the problems that he's going to solve, all the examples that he's going to give, all the concepts, it is already available online. So you don't need to come to the class. Everything which he is going to teach is available prior to the session. Anybody who signs up for a finance course already has access to everything. So I said in India the scenario will be very different, because if my student has access to everything, he'll never come to my class. Right? So he said that's the catch, Madhavi, because what I talk in a class is very, very different than what is there in the entire content portion, which again in India today has become big business, right? Content development. That also is a part of our higher education industry, if I can call it. He says, I pick up a company and I talk only about the company, I analyze it, I talk about the fundamentals, I talk about management, I talk about top management, shareholder pattern, then I talk about the financials, and I talk about how the company is doing. So this is the story the student wouldn't want to miss. So in his class, despite all the content, all problems, all assignment, all tests, he even takes his test on his system. You don't have to come to his class to give his midterm test or final exam or whatever. Everything is available online, but his classroom is full. Right? So he gives something to the student which cannot be offered only on the device. And therefore the student is wanting to come in his class, and there he has a sign up. He says 400 students are allowed to sit in my class. You sign up first, you can come and sit in my class. So it is it's a brilliant example of how he has used his own skill and technology. Now moving to the happiness aspect. I'm very happy with one thing about NEP, which opened up and said you have the choice. It's given the choice to the student to select, which unfortunately was not there. I've heard of several students who came and said, ma'am, can I not study economics, commerce and also dance at the same time? I want to pick up the courses in, for example, somebody else was talking, when, how they got, I was medical. Yeah. I used to love sciences, but I used to hate chemistry, and I never had an option to pick up a science program without having to pick chemistry, so I stayed away. I said, I'll do economics, commerce, right? So first is, for a student to want to study and become a good learner, he should have a choice to pick up at least the courses he wants, and then say that from these courses, I'm going to make a career. So if you look at why South Korea or Finland or Netherlands, they've got the best education system. If you read something about the South Korea and the Meister schools, typically they prepare only those who want to go to the industry, want to study technology, want to study analytics, want to study, maths. So it is not thrust upon students to say that you have to study all this to go ahead and make this. I think this example has been quoted by several where they say, I have never used integration in my life. But maybe there are careers where they have used it. But what happens is we are thrusting this on school students right from childhood, saying you have to study all this, and if you don't, then you're failed. So giving them option will perhaps lead to happiness. Making teaching aspiration will perhaps bring happiness. And like how we are wanting to give freebies to free bus, free lunch, give some freebies to the education sector to those who really deserve, and those who can become good teachers. That funding, that sponsorship might bring in a lot more happiness, and this will become an aspirational profession, is my view on this.
Yeah, well said. Happy learning, happy learners, they spread happiness. That's how we can build happy economy. That is what your equation. ಕನ್ನಡ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೂ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸೊ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರು ಪೇ ಫಾರ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ನಂದೊಂದು ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ನೆನಪಾಯಿತು. ನಮ್ಮ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ ಅವರು ನನಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಹೇಳೋರು, ನೋಡೋ ನಿನ್ನ ಚಿಕ್ಕಮ್ಮ ಟೀಚರು, ಇಬ್ಬರು ಚಿಕ್ಕಮ್ಮಂದರು ಟೀಚರು, ನೋಬಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಷನ್ನು, ನಮ್ಮ ಮೇಷ್ಟ್ರು ಹೆಂಗಿದ್ರು ಅಂತಲ್ಲ. ನಂದೆಲ್ಲ MBA ಮುಗೀತು, ನಾನು ಟೀಚರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತೀನಂತೆ. ಯಾರೋ ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಟೀಚರ್ ಆದರೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಟು dichotomies we can see. But anyway, I think we are also moving ahead, and also making the teacher's life beautiful is also equally important to build a responsible society. So now I will go to the audience for their questions. Yeah, plus we have Kulkarni sir.
Yes, myself, Dr. Keshava, Minister of the College. And I congratulate the host because they have arranged a very good panel. Because Gowrisha sir is sitting in a live statue of the Viksit Bharat, and other three are the signals of the circle. One is saying a green light to proceed to go, and another one is wait to go, and another one is stop to go. Like this, they are sitting. My today's paper is telling the best vision of Viksit Bharat. Two great personalities of the world. President of the America told mega, that is, make America great, advanced, and our Prime Minister said mega. He said mega, and our Prime Minister said mega. That is great India. Make India a great achiever. Like that, they have quoted like it. But the thing is that in my 30 years of service, I preached, teached in all the way by taking many classes like this. But many of the students won't concentrate regarding the Viksit Bharat or Viksit is own individual. Because they came for the college to spend the 2 years of their academic, for degree 3 years of their academy, for PUC 2 years of academy, all these things. When they complete after the PG, they came to know what is the Viksit Bharat of India and Viksit Bharat of is himself. My question is that, what are the illustrations, the best illustrations? Because Hemanth sir is facilitating or respecting by 6th of March in Sahara Hotel, I think so. I have gone through Google. He is respected in the Sahara Hotel, Mumbai, by 6th of next month. When I gone through the Google, I studied all the three personalities in the Google.
So be careful. People are watching you.
Yeah. How
Except Gowrisha, I'm
yeah,
safe.
definitely, sir. Because I want to know.
Yeah, I think Kulkarni sir question is very straight. So all this Viksit Bharat that we are talking about, and youngsters are not showing interest, what to do? $1 million question. I think Hemanth and you are success. All three of you are successful in your career. So he wants illustrations right in front of you. Illustrations are there. Maybe among your group also. But let Hemanth answer this, please, sir.
See, this goes back again to the same point of learner consciousness, right? because it is as simple as if you're just going to put students one by one from class 1 to class 12th and then put them in college. Obviously, we are not even emphasizing on their consciousness, and that's what I was talking about. How do you build a proper scientific system in place where students are actually getting more conscious about, why they have to learn, what they have to learn, and connecting to what ma'am said, having that clarity of what to do. Because, for example, I dropped out of MBBS to study biotechnology, and eventually ended up doing management consulting, and then eventually started a software company. I was very lucky to get the timely support on areas which I wanted to do, and I could jump between different things, right? But if I would have remained a doctor, probably not very happy, right? Yeah,
Okay, that's what I
just
understood. Yeah,
But just to connect to the question that you were saying, I think what we have to look at, and this is something that great teachers do very well. See, I dropped out of MBBS just because my physics teacher called me and said, I've looked at you solving physics problems, and I think you'll do far better at technology because you come from the base formulas and not. And that was one of the biggest moments in my life, because it changed everything. I remember the best faculty I remember my college days was not the one who taught me best in the classroom, but who actually gave me that guidance and mental support when I had tough decisions to take in my life, right? So what I'm saying is that part of the role a teacher has to play in helping a student be more conscious about things is what will play a role. And even, I would say, institutions have to play a very important role, and NEP is anyways helping with multi-entry exit, with multiple choice-based curriculum. So we are actually getting there slowly. And industry is also happy to accept, because earlier, if you see, companies will come for placement and say, I only want student with computer science for my IT jobs. Today, when I go, I don't care about any of these things. When they ask me for degrees, I say, I don't care about the degree. If they pass my exam, I'm happy to take them. So industry is accepting flexibility. Institutions with the policy coming and that is, and there's so much of if Google, students are finding information on ChatGPT, Google, and it's actually changing in a big way. And I think so that's where I am very hopeful today, because I think this is the most positive phase of higher education in India, and it will only get up and better from here.
I think the system is becoming flexible, education is becoming flexible. So if teacher become flexible, I think everything works. That's the mindset. And also, interestingly, you brought out illustrious teachers can definitely become role model. So thanks, Kulkarni sir, for that question. We'll go to, yes, next question. Sir, we'll go to the question now. Okay.
So hello, sir. I'm Shankar Patil, an educationist and entrepreneur. Question is, we give today more emphasis on technology-driven teaching thing. But if we see hundreds of years back, we culture, whether we talk about Takshashila in the university, we were expert in engineers still admire the architect, what we be medicines. That long time, but still we were quite advanced in terms of science or many other. Are we heading towards the right direction in terms of technology-driven teaching and learning? Because today we see Chalk Talk to shift to technology-driven teaching and learning. And in fact, in Bangalore, there is a school and college where AI-driven robot teachers are also there. So do you think, is it the right direction, or we need to emphasize more on effective teaching and learning, as ma'am said, value-added, skill-based learning? Is my question.
Yeah. Keshav sir would like to take this question. Yeah.
No, I don't agree with you when you say, during those days technology was not there. We may not be aware of what they had. Probably they had much better technology during those days. Even nowadays, many research are telling, when they are carving so much within the caves, the cave temples, the amount of technology they have used, we are not aware of it. Probably we'll come to know little later. Technology was there and it will be there. Only thing is, either it is a AI-enabled robot which is teaching, it should complement the teachers. If it complements teachers as well as teaching, it is good. In case you can never replace the teachers. I strongly believe this, and I also practice this. In case if the teacher has that integrity, nobody can replace the teacher. And that's the reason I gave you the example of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also. Even today we remember good teachers. Even our teachers also, in case from first standard to PhD, whoever has taught me, I remember one or two teachers who taught me well. So like that, good teachers are always there, and technology, nowadays, good things are coming. Only thing is it will complement our teaching, the visualization of the students, or to make them understand better. But again, who inspires them to learn all that? It's we.
Yeah, that's right. AI is there. I will tell the AI, I am I. So you are AI. So nanu nane. So we'll go to the next question.
And one more thing is, artificial intelligence is always artificial intelligence. Our intelligence is always better than artificial.
Sir.
Am I audible, sir? Yeah. Myself, Professor Sudeep. I'm from Dayanand Sagar. I want to ask you a question to all the panelists. We are discussing about the economic development of the country. We'll be able to achieve Viksit Bharat 2047. My question is that, see, if you observe all over India, the people, the individuals or the students or youngsters who are learning in native Indian languages comparatively are at a disadvantageous position for them to be economically included, especially in the context of the economic growth, what's happening in India. I'm talking about the last 10, 20, 30 years. To put it in a simple way, say in India, if you're not knowing English, at least a basic level of communication skill in English, you are considered as at a lesser, a disadvantaged position to apply for any multinational company or any jobs which gives a better pay in the market. Now, I am not against the English language teaching or English language used as a mode of communication. My question to all the panelists is that how we can include the people who are educated in the native Indian languages into this particular economical or economic growth for all the panelists. Thank you.
I will go to Madhavi madam to answer this question. But recently, Keshava sir has done a massive exercise on this, producing textbooks and content in Indian languages, specifically for higher education. But questions, I request Madhavi madam to answer.
I think even in NEP now, the vernacular education has been given a lot of prominence. And I don't think that English is going to be such a big barrier, because we also see many students who have studied, and I can vouch from where I come from. When we select students, we find students who are from tier 2, tier 3, not brilliant in English, but brilliant on their content and their domain, whatever they have studied, be it engineering, be it science, be it arts, be it commerce. Communication skills in English is like a competency. It can be learnt whether you're 15, whether you're 25, whether you're 45, whether you're 55. I think it is for the learners to figure out where they are headed, and if they're really looking for corporate jobs and they're looking for jobs in a global context, then it becomes important for them to pick up English and maybe a slightly advanced proficiency in spoken and written English. But having said that, so many companies also which come to our campus, in fact, just after COVID, the highest CTC on my campus was 18 lakhs for a student who studied entirely in Marathi. He joined for the course at, in graduation for English. Till then, he had studied entirely in Marathi. And the company, I can definitely tell you, Accenture did not discriminate or have any bias, because when it came to technical competency, he was at the top of the game. So, is English a barrier? Maybe if you are aspiring to work in a global scenario or on a global one of the cross-border companies or any of these multinational companies. But at the same time, companies are not looking that as an entry barrier, because they're willing to invest in talent pool, and they say that some of the skills, for example, for a normal management student, he may not have IT skills. Similarly, communication skill is a skill and a competency. It can be picked up at any point in time. So I don't think that's a discriminating factor today.
Well said. English, not we are thinking language and things like that, so it is becoming more complex. When you think English as a competency, I think that's where we need to look into. Any other questions that? Yeah, two more questions we'll take. One Girish and professor from Jyoti Institute there. Here anybody? Yeah, last three questions. Quickly. Sir, go to the question straight away.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Gautam from Jyoti Institute of Commerce and Management. Though it is a universal truth that the fundings on education sector is very less and it is unable to take education to the next level, then the purpose of establishing the private institutions, or it can be a what we can say, it is a boon and a bane for both academicians as well as for the learners. So the institutions are growing, the investors are growing, but the quality of education is declining. Instead of pointing out that the funding is very less from the government sector, so why should the government should sponsor for the private institution? The question arises. When it comes to the court of the institutions or the investors, as Sir said, commerce faculty is teaching AI. The same thing happening in most of the private institutions, so that what are the measures supposed to be taken as a teacher to the next level? If the individual doesn't grow, then how can we expect the nation will be a Viksit Bharat?
Dr. Gautam, I will take your first question to Keshava sir. Funding part of the education. So we are talking a lot of economic development. So for development needs money.
Yeah, please. 6% of the GDP to be invested in education, that is what NEP is telling. And even the earlier education committees also said the same thing. But unfortunately, till now, we are unable to do it. Probably in the coming days, but it's increasing. When you see the data, earlier it was 2.5, now it is 3.8. So it will definitely increase. We have to give little more time for it. But only thing is, I don't agree with you when you say even in the private sector, the salaries are not high. Because recently I was asking one of the faculty of the Narayana and Chaitanya, I shouldn't name them, but till the teachers of the 11th and 12th standards are, few of them, I'm not saying all the teachers, who have the quality in them, they are demanding 26 lakhs per year, 36 lakhs per year, like this it is there. Even for the plus 11 and plus 12, if you have the quality in you, then you can definitely demand. Take for 2 or 3 months free also, no problem. Then you demand, definitely the management would give you. In case if you really have that quality in you. Definitely the funds will come there also, here also. Let us wait, hope for the good.
Teachers should become brands, then I think definitely people will.
Question is not related to salary, sir.
So Gautam, I think funding part, I think sir has answered your question.
Question is not related to salary. The question in context of uplifting the quality of students contributing for Viksit Bharat, not about the salary part.
No, both I was speaking of. 6% first I told it is for the entire education sector.
It includes private also.
Then I just went there also. And
yeah, that is an additional inputs for you. Okay. Then we'll go to the Girish. Thank you, Gautam.
I actually had a question. I think he partially answered. My question is very straightforward. Why teachers are paid so less? In fact, ma'am raised this question.
Yeah, madam, please, you only answer. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you
so see, first of all, if you look at what's happening, I 100% agree with what Keshava sir was saying. If you look at, I know of vice chancellors and directors which are getting paid in crores of rupees every year in India. Okay? What's happening is the same thing happens in industry. There are people who will be paid very high, people who will be paid low based on their competence and quality. Okay? People who do not get paid enough for the quality that they are delivering will move to organizations which will give them better rewards. That is exactly what is happening in education also. If you see professors or teachers who are high quality, they are delivering very well, if they don't get what they deserve, they will go to other institutions. And I 100% disagree with anybody who says that the quality of education in India is going down. No, it's going up absolutely. If you look at the quality of institutions that India is now starting is far higher, right? Look at the Chanakya universities of India, Ashoka, Plaksha. Now recently there is, other universities that are, industry is putting capital. Some of the best institutions, the good institutions of India like Manipal and VITs and BITS are starting new campuses. There's a BITS Mumbai, there's a VIT Bangalore, there is a Manipal Jamshedpur. So the quality of institutions is improving. And when these high quality institutions are coming up or are growing, they need quality people. And for quality people, they are ready to give, because in my opinion, any good institution, if managed properly, has no lack of capital in private education, because there is enough capital flowing in, there is enough capitals to be accessed through donors and others, and this is well proven by Chanakya is a very good example, Ashoka is a very good example. So I think what we have to also look at how industry look is, am I good enough? Am I doing well enough? If yes, if you're not getting what you deserve at this organization, somebody else will give you.
Yeah, quality, demand, and that links to the pay. Thank you, Hemanth. So we'll take the last question.
This is Yashoda from RBNMS College, First Grade College. My question is, one is how mental health of the students is completely having an impact for this Viksit Bharat. Because we know there is a demographic dividend for India. Our India is called a young India because of its population. That is why Vivekananda Jayanti is celebrated as National Youth Day. But now the youth have been completely polluted in their mindset, and also from the externalities, which is completely polluting their minds, like drug addiction, which is completely very important, and it is going to have a very big effect on Viksit Bharat. Because when the young minds are polluted, it is going to have a very big impact. Whatever we are talking about capacity building will completely go in vain if the youth are polluted. One is, recently there was a study relating to the mental health, in which most of the youngsters are completely finding happiness to be isolated. They're not talking to anybody, whoever is in physical, but they're very much connected to their technology. We are not talking to our parents, but we use technology to talk to our friends who are in US. That is why it is creating so much of depression in the students. And majority of the role of parents usually compare why my kid is not getting first rank. Teachers compare why the student is not getting first rank. But what happening for the failures?
Yes.
If failures are not going to happen, Thomas Alva Edison could not be coming into picture.
Yes,
we are not
madam.
completely accepting the failures,
Yes.
and we are not strengthening their conscience.
Thank you. I understood your question. Echo with your concern also. I'll put your question to madam, because she was earlier answered happiness, and you clapped when they first took the mic. So let we end with this question with madam.
Yes, it's definitely a fact that the youngsters are a lot more distracted, they're a lot more anxious, there are a lot more cases of stress, and to relieve the stress and to get a temporary pleasure, it is true that they are also getting addicted to a whole lot of things which are available in the market. I think it's no secret that weed is common across all campuses. I've even heard youngsters saying, it's like a grass, it's a plant, so there's no harm in doing weed. Yeah, this is a reality. But at the same time, it's also a reality that as educational institutions, we are also pushing them to perform by not giving them time in between for, let's say, physical activity. As in, when we were youngsters, there was a PT class, there was an NSS, there was NCC, there was something related to a specific social activity. I think we as institutions, now with this new NEP, should also look at introducing smaller courses which pertain to hobbies, which pertain to being out in the field, a lot more team activities and group activities, making it part of the curriculum. I think they're also talking about experiential learning and hands-on learning. I think every classroom has the potential to serve as a thinking lab and as a design lab, where we can make students work in teams. And I'll give you an example. So, of course, now because I'm at the administration side, I don't teach too much. But in every finance class, my first class would start with the game of Monopoly. In fact, for my class, I've got my own personal board, 30 boards of Monopoly, where they're supposed to team up and play it. They're supposed to buy those cities. They're supposed to take loans from bank. They're supposed to repay those loans. That taught them two things. One, learning through a game. Two, that they are supposed to function as a team. If we bring in more and more of that culture, then this is bound, I won't say it will go away, it is bound to have some kind of a positive effect on their minds. There are developed economies, there are economies where, drugs can be purchased in stores and shops. Students can actually go and purchase. Does it stop the student from performing? Maybe no, because their things are not kept in a closet. And the same is true for sex education in India. We try to hide and we try to keep too many things secret, and the minute a youngster realizes that these things are not to be done, then the desire to do those becomes a lot more, impactful within themselves. So I think one thing towards that is get in a physical activity, do some fun stuff in the class like a Zumba or like a sports, or send them out for 10 to 15 minutes within your class. In fact, we are right now experimenting with a theory which says classroom in a garden and garden in a classroom. So we are saying if there is some subject which you are teaching and you want them to work in the groups, you actually send them out to the open space and you say, this is what you're required to do, come back after 15 minutes. Allow them to breathe that fresh air, allow them to, function as teams. Maybe it will have a positive effect. Like I said, none of us are in a position to promise and say this thing is going to go away, but we'll have to learn how to exist with those things.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Joy of learning and engaging students, I think that's the best way to solve the problem that you have raised. I think Ashok sir and Rajendra Joshi sir were also tempted to answer some of these questions. Now, sorry, we will discuss later. I have only 2 minutes because the two this session coordinators are already here. They're asking us to get out of from this place. So I have only 2 minutes. They are showing this, maybe victory or I don't know what it is. But I give 30 seconds to each of you, and then I will keep 30 seconds to close the session. So I will go with Hemanth sir, quickly 30 seconds. What's your conclusion?
See, my conclusion is very simple. This is the best phase for higher education in India. Absolutely very optimistic state to be. And the good thing is the demand and supply is changing, which will make sure we have quality institutions which give quality learners who will actually go and build quality industry.
Madam.
I think we are a huge nation. There's a lot of diversity. People think differently. People speak different languages. No change is going to come in just like that and change the entire country. It is a process. We all are part of the process. We just can't talk about what government is doing. Each one of us has a responsibility, individual social responsibility. Make an impact on young minds, and teacher always has to be a role model. They have to look up to you. They will eventually realize when they grow older saying what a role model or who a role model is, but don't stop being one.
Thank you. Sir.
Let all the stakeholders, including me and you, work together to see that India will become developed economy, use education as a major tool. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic conclusion that we got all the three speakers. My only thing is, I think from the entire discussion, we are very optimistic. So the education sector is doing good with all problems and challenges. We are looking ahead. At the same time, the economic development is happening with the efforts from the macro and micro level. I think there is an individual contribution and efforts is more important for the overall inclusive development of the economy or to reach the Viksit Bharat goal. I think every bit of what is that, our bit, if we are able to do it as educators, our education leaders, and I think definitely it is possible to the whatever targets that we have to 2047, definitely possible to achieve. I think in all this context, capacity building of individuals, institutions, and at the India level, and that's actually the requirement. I think that's where we are here to discuss for these 2 days. I thank Keshava sir, thank Hemanth sir, and thank Madhavi madam, and I thank all of you for wonderful questions and participating in the discussions and for patiently listening through the entire session. And thank you once again. Over to you, madam.
Sir. Thank you, sir, for concluding the session. It was very constructive, very fruitful deliberations we had for over 2 hours without even realizing that we have actually missed our lunch timings. So, thank you to all the panel members. As a token of gratitude, we would like to request Dr. Gowrisha to please hand over a small memento to Dr. Madhavi Lokhande.
I request Murali sir also join. He is Executive Council member of CESS and also Professor in Government College, Kolar, Dean of Bengaluru North University, to join me in handing over the memento to all the panelists. Thanks once again for not asking questions to me.
Next, we would like to honor Dr. R Keshava, sir. Next, we have Shri Hemanth Sahal. Last but not the least, a big thank you and honor with claps to our moderator for such a wonderful and lively session. So thank you, sir.